on perfect wisdom, with the divisions of the Abhishamaya-Lamkara. Translated by EdwardConze, 1904–1979. University of California Press, Berkeley, Los Angeles, London. Chapter 63. Many questions concerning the duality of dharmas. Ninefold discrimination of the object. Discrimination of condensed and detailed cognition. Subhuti. A bodhisattva should be trained in many stations and yet he should not be trained in anything. The Lord. So it is, Subhuti, so it is. A bodhisattva should be trained in many stations and yet he should not be trained in anything. For the dharmas in which the bodhisattva should train cannot be apprehended. Subhuti. A bodhisattva who wants to know full enlightenment should, in what the tathagata has taught about dharmas briefly and in detail, study those 6 perfections in brief and in detail. After he has studied them he should become thoroughly familiar with them in his speech, and then repeatedly consider them with his mind, but in such a way that the dharmas which constitute thought and its concomitants do not proceed. The Lord. So it is, Subhuti, so it is. A bodhisattva who trains briefly and in detail in these 6 perfections will also cognize all dharmas briefly and in detail. Subhuti. And how will he do that? The Lord. When he cognizes the suchness of form briefly and in detail, he will in that way cognize all dharmas briefly and in detail. Subhuti. What then in the suchness of form? The Lord. That suchness of which no production, abiding, or alteration is conceived, that is the suchness of form, in which the bodhisattva should train. When he knows the reality limit, a bodhisattva will cognize all dharmas briefly and in detail. Subhuti. What is that reality limit? The Lord. A no limit is the reality limit. When he trains in this limit, a bodhisattva will cognize all dharmas briefly and in detail. When he cognizes the dharma element, a bodhisattva will cognize all dharmas briefly and in detail. Subhuti. What is that dharma element? The Lord. A no element is the dharma element. Of that dharma element no cutting off is conceived, and no limitation. When he courses thus and cognizes the dharma element, a bodhisattva will cognize all dharmas briefly and in detail. Subhuti. How should he cognize all dharmas briefly and in detail? The Lord. He should see all dharmas as neither conjoined nor disjoined. Subhuti. Which are these all dharmas that are neither conjoined or disjoined? The Lord. Form 2. The conditioned element and their unconditioned element are neither conjoined nor disjoined. And why? Because they have no own being which could be conjoined or disjoined. And what has no own being, that is a non-existent, and what is a non-existent that is not conjoined with a non-existent or disjoined from it. Thus should all dharmas be cognized. This again is the abridgment for a bodhisattva, a great being. For in this abridged perfection should a bodhisattva train as a beginner and until he has stood on the 10th stage. When he trains in this abridgment, a bodhisattva will cognize all dharmas briefly and in detail. Subhuti. Is this an introduction for a bodhisattva whose faculties are keen? The Lord. This is an introduction also for a bodhisattva whose faculties are dull, or of a medium kind, or unconcentrated. This is an introduction for any bodhisattva who wants to train, but not for 1. Who is lazy, inferior in vigor, confused in his mindfulness, disturbed in his thought. It is an introduction for one who exerts vigor, who is not lazy, whose mindfulness is well established, and who wants to train on the irreversible stage and to reach the knowledge of all modes. The fact that he is not upheld by the Buddha's aid. If a bodhisattva will train in the perfection of wisdom as it has been explained, he will, having trained in the perfection of giving, to the perfection of wisdom, reach the knowledge of all modes. Whatever deeds of Mara may arise to a bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom, he will at once get rid of them again. Therefore a bodhisattva who wants to gain skill in means should train in the perfection of wisdom. At the time when a bodhisattva courses in the perfection of wisdom, develops it, and makes endeavors about it, at that time the Buddhas and Lords who reside in countless world systems and demonstrate the good Dharma bring that bodhisattva to mind, as he courses in perfect wisdom. And why? The past, future, and present Buddhas and Lords have issued from the six perfections. A bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom should therefore expect that also he will reach those dharmas which the past, future, and present Buddhas and Lords have reached, will reach, and do reach. It is thus that a bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom should exert effort. When he exerts himself in such a way, then he will quickly know full enlightenment. A bodhisattva should therefore become one who is not lacking in attentions to the knowledge of all modes. If a bodhisattva, thus coursing in the knowledge of all modes, develops perfect wisdom even for the time of a mere finger snap, then he will beget a greater amount of merits than if he were to gratify all beings in the great trichiliocosm with gifts, or were to establish them in morality, in concentration, in wisdom, in emancipation, in the vision and cognition of emancipation, in the fruit of a stream winner. 2. Pratyeka Buddha enlightenment. And why? Because all these, from giving to Pratyeka Buddha enlightenment, have issued from this perfect wisdom. Those Buddhas and Lords also, who reside in the world systems in the 10 directions and demonstrate Dharma, they also have issued from this perfection of wisdom. All the past, future, and present Buddhas have come forth from this perfection of wisdom. Furthermore, if, for a second, or a day, or 100 days, or a year, or 100 years, or an eon, or for 100 eons, or for countless thousands of eons, a bodhisattva were to develop this perfection of wisdom with attentions which have the knowledge of all modes for their objective basis, he will beget a greater merit than one who were to gratify all beings in world systems equal to the sands of the Ganges with gifts, or would establish them in morality. 2. In Pratyeka Buddha enlightenment. And why? Because from this have issued those Buddhas and Lords who have arranged this foundation of meritorious deeds consisting in giving to the Pratyeka Buddha enlightenment, the non-existence of the virtuous qualities on the path of training. Furthermore, one should expect a bodhisattva to be irreversible if he stands in the perfection of wisdom as expounded here. One should expect him to be endowed with the tathagatas, if he is endowed with this skill in means. One should expect him to have honored many hundreds of thousands of niyatas of kotis of Buddhas, to have planted wholesome roots, to have been taken hold of by the good spiritual friend, to have coursed for long in the 6 perfections, to have developed the 14 kinds of emptiness, and so on, until we come to. One should expect him to have developed the 4 analytical knowledges, to possess the 6 super knowledges, to be true crown prince, full of good intentions, not lacking in the vision of the Buddhas, or in wholesome roots, or in the Buddha field, with his inspired speech never interrupted. One who has acquired the dharanis, who has achieved an accomplished body, who has achieved the prediction, who can be reborn at will, who is skilled in entering on the letters and on what cannot be expressed by letters, skilled in what can and what cannot be expressed by worldly convention, skilled in finding one synonym, 2 synonyms, many synonyms, skilled in the words of women, men, and neuters, skilled in the past, future, and present, skilled in form and the other skandhas, in nirvana, in the mark of the Dharma element, of the conditioned and the unconditioned, skilled in existence and in non-existence, own being and other being, in what is associated, disassociated, skilled in suchness, non-falseness, unaltered suchness, in the Dharma element, the fixed sequence of Dharma, skilled in causes and conditions, skilled in what has no conditions, skilled in the skandhas, elements and sense fields, in the truths in condition co-production, skilled in the trances, unlimited and formless attainments, in the 6 perfections, the 4 applications of mindfulness, 2. In the knowledge of all modes, skilled in the conditioned element, the unconditioned element, in the element and the non-element, skilled in attention to form, 2. The knowledge of all modes, skilled in the understanding that form is empty of form, 2. That consciousness is empty of consciousness, 2. That enlightenment is empty of enlightenment. Skilled in the path of quiescence and the path of non-quiescence. skilled in production, in stopping, in the alteration of what has been established, skilled in greed, hate, and delusion, as well as in no greed, no hate, and no delusion, skilled in views and in no views, in false views and not false views too, skilled in all views, skilled in name and form, in objective supports, in the decisive condition, in modes, in marks, in ill, in origination, stopping and the path, in the hells, animal births, world of Yama, men and ghosts, skilled in the path which leads to